So I wanted to do a video really quickly with no slides, just kind of talking to the camera, speaking about the importance of a launch list. So really the purpose of this video is to chat about how important it is and some of the strategies you can think about when you're creating a launch list in advance of a launch. And keyword being in advance of a launch. A common mistake I see sellers make is they spend a ton of time on product research, which you should do. They spend a ton of time setting up their listing, getting the photos right, which they should do. But then they scramble about a week or even days in advance of when the product actually goes live on Amazon to figure out their launch. Launch strategy and launch lists in particular should be something that is an ongoing activity within your business. You should always be cultivating super friendlies, customers, influencers, and other folks that are your customer archetype and combining them together so that you've got this army of people ready to deploy and purchase your product when you launch. If you're starting a brand from scratch, this is going to require some elbow grease and some hustle. If you've got an existing brand, this is something that you can cultivate and snowball over time, and it becomes a massive, massive weapon, especially if you're 3, 4, 5 launches in and you've done this right and cultivated an audience. At a minimum, I like to start the strategy when the product is on the water, assuming it's an ocean shipment. That should give you a solid 5 to 6 weeks to start cultivating this, planning the date, getting your army and your list ready to rock and roll. We're going to get into super friendlies explicitly, but that's a core part of this. But other things are existing customers, right? Fans of your brand that have reached out and said how much they love the product. Cultivate those folks so that you can give them an incentive to purchase the product at launch. Email lists, Facebook groups, YouTube channels, Reddit groups, all of these things can snowball to create this launch list army. Another thing I love to have happen is if you chip away at the influencer strategy that we're going to outline in a different module, over time you're going to build this Rolodex of influencers that you trust that are highly aligned with your customer archetype. Oftentimes you can grow 10, 20, 30 influencers over time. And guess what? When you get a launch ready, you can plan in advance, that 6-week plan in advance, and make sure that they have product ready to go so that they can deploy their stories and their influence to their audiences and your archetype when you're launching a product. So think deeply about building these lists, because when you've got 30, 40, 50 people hungry and ready to purchase your product when you first launch, it's an indestructible force when combined with the honeymoon of Amazon to have effective rank early on in the product's life. And when you can get organic rank on a lot of keywords early on in a product's life, that will snowball. You'll get into the algorithm within Amazon, and that's when the fun of the flywheel starts. So be thinking about your launch lists.